All right. Welcome back, Saint. This
Thanks
is
for having me again.
Yeah, we were supposed to do a second one of these
A long time
a,
ago, actually.
a long time ago, but
You remember what we said at the end of the last one? It was like, oh yeah, we'll probably be wearing the same clothes in the same place. I'm in a completely different place.
yeah, you moved. You had to go raid
Yeah.
that day, so we had to cut it short, but this one's going to be better than the last one because we have a lot to unpack today. So, today we're going to be covering the massive announcement of Tier 3 going into the Western launch of Lost Ark. There's so much to unpack here. There's a lot of people that don't know what this change entails. So we're going to be breaking down all of that. And more importantly, we're going to talk about what this means for the new player who knows nothing about Lost Ark, but also should they alter their approach when getting into the game? Okay, I've been a big advocate for going into Lost Ark a bit more blind. That's kind of how I did it, and it is a big reason of why I love the game today, or I've enjoyed it so much, I should say. So we'll talk about all of that. We'll unpack all of that. But for those of you listening who don't know who you are, Saint, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone listening?
Okay. I mean, dude, we share like I checked my Twitch analytics. We share like 60% of our audience, man. Even though we are literally on opposite. Think about it. We're on opposite streaming schedules.
Yeah.
And 60% of those people watch us in both of them.
It's true, dude, because somebody was in my chat and they had like this little picture that they drew. It's like I stayed up all night watching Saint, and then I'm watching you all day. Like it's like they like rotate. We like swap.
Dude,
you know?
I think I don't get enough sleep, but then like some of our viewers, they'll be in my entire stream, and then like after I'm done streaming, I'm chilling and I'm watching your stream, and then they'll be in your entire stream. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
when do you sleep?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I have a YouTube audience that may not know who you are, right? So
Fair enough. So my name is Saintone. I've been playing on the Korean service since Lost Ark of Closed Beta 2. That was almost 4 years ago now. Dude, do you see these videos sometimes that pop up? It's like, I've played 3,000 hours, 4,000
Dude,
hours.
I mean, to be fair, I included those stats in both of my Lost Ark videos. I put,
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Hey man, I'm telling you, dude, that's the YouTube game, dude. You gotta let people know, you know.
I guess so, because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I wanted to like make a meme about it. It's like, I've played 5,000 hours and I've made it to level 40. This is why you should listen to me.
Yeah.
But you know, metrics that people care about, I guess. But I've clocked in about 7.6k hours myself. Just playing through the game through season 1, and then when season 2 picked up, I started working a lot more towards guide creation and resources because I am very excited for the North American and European release, even though it probably won't be my main region. I'm very excited that the game is expanding out to a global audience, but I understand that Lost Ark is also a game that, it as an amazing of a game as it is, it doesn't explain itself great for newcomers. It often panders to its existing player base, and so my role in the community has always been guiding people, providing information, and making sure that everything is set course straight, since the game has such a weird history where it has information that's just not relevant today, but still kind of refuses around the community.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're definitely a really knowledgeable person in the community, the person that I learned from. It helped me a lot when I started getting into the game, and somebody I still ask questions all the time, harass all the time about updates and things like that, class changes, raid strategies, and stuff like that. So Saint's super knowledgeable. His info for his Twitch and his YouTube will be here somewhere on the screen. You should go ahead and check him out. He's a full-time Lost Ark content creator now. So go ahead.
I am in 2 days.
In limbo.
I'll be full-time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So show him some support, of course, and he's really helpful if you're looking for some reliable information. But he's here joining me today, and we're going to go over the big news again and what it means. So first, let's talk about the Tier 3 change, and can you explain to everyone listening what a tier means. They've probably heard this a lot online: tier 1 content, tier 2 content,
Mm-hmm.
tier 3 content. Maybe they don't even know, or they've never heard those terms before, but it was in the January newsletter update. Tier 3 was
Right.
mentioned there. Could you
So
explain that?
I think the easiest way is just to use layman's terms here. Tier 1 is vanilla Lost Ark. Tier 2 is the first expansion. Tier 3 is the second expansion. If that expansion was massive and bigger than everything else before it. So, the news of starting in Tier 3 is really big, even though they said we're just kind of throwing the beginning parts of Tier 3, because it means that, you'll have the vanilla game, you'll have, a good chunk of content.
Okay, so you probably heard those annoying Discord notifications. I got those muted. But to summarize, tier 3 is essentially, or tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 are just major content releases for Lost Ark. And a lot of people would attribute tier 1 to being like vanilla Lost Ark. And we're getting the ability to go right away. We'll talk about that more in a little bit, but right away into tier 3, which is the start of, I guess you would say, current end game.
Yeah, and just to clarify real fast, because I'm sorry, there's just so much terminology and it's almost just random at times. Tier has nothing to do with season. We are playing season 2 of Lost Ark, which is the good version of Lost Ark. Season 1 of Lost Ark, buried and forgotten. Just don't even think it exists. Yeah, we're in season 2. Season 1 is just a bad memory. It's a fever dream.
Yeah. It's like 9.1, 9.2, 9.3 for any of you WoW.
Yeah.
For any of that's for my WoW audience. 9.2, 9. It's just a patch, a big, large patch with new dungeons, new zones, and things like that. Okay? And we're going to be getting the tier 3 patch, the start of it. Okay? And with this change, though, a lot of people prior to this were really in the Lost Ark community they'd be in my stream saying, I don't want to go through tier 1. And what you experienced during the beta, I should say, was tier 1. And you went up to Rohandel, which was the Palace of Dreams or Phantom's Palace. I'm not sure what the name was on the beta for the English version, but that was essentially the end of tier 1. And a lot of people are excited that we got up to Rohandel, but I remember people coming to my stream, I just want to get to tier 3. I don't want to do this tier 1 content. I don't want to do this tier 2 content. Even though the dungeons are really fun, the zones are really fun, especially my first time going through it. When I did, I really, really, enjoyed it. But there are some people that, are now going to feel like, is the content that I'm doing right now, does it matter that much anymore? Like, is it all about getting to tier 3? Does tier 1, tier 2 even matter anymore? And people had already been kind of saying things like nothing matters early on. It's all about tier 3, right? You've heard these types of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like a symptom of MMORPGs in general, because you can see this very same thing happening. It happens in Final. No one talks about it, of course, because it's just like part of the game. But it happens in Final Fantasy 14 as well. I mean, all the gearing that you do and all the progression that you do leading up until Shadowbringers, for example. I mean, does it matter? No, you just go through it and enjoy the experience and enjoy the content that existed during that time, and then it eventually brings you to the end game.
So this is a really good point. We're going to touch on this, but let's start with what are the positives first. What would you say are the positives of this change versus what we were going to initially get, which was what the tier 1 launch with the Rohandel being the end?
I think the best one is, it's in the director's vision actually, is getting the Western regions caught up, or expediting where they are to the other existing regions as quickly as possible. I mean, we'll probably go over it later in this program, but where this positions North America, Europe, South America is they'll be starting the game 2 content patches behind where Japan is, or maybe it's 3. And so your region is starting 1.5 years later after Japan, but you're only a few months behind Japan, and that's wild.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing obviously is that you're going to get to experience the content that has really made Lost Ark famous much sooner And this was a kind of a fear that we had previously. We've talked about this in other programs before, in that, you know, for content creators like us, it's sometimes difficult to coerce some of our colleagues to say, stick with the game for a year and the content will get really good. And then they'll look at you and they'll call you insane, and then they'll go back to playing Final Fantasy 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
But now with the content pipeline being so much more condensed, we can reliably tell peers and also viewers and new audience members the really good content is right around the corner. And that's not to diminish how good the earlier content is,
It's good.
but it would be a lie to not say that the newer content that's been coming out is basically in a league of its own in terms of quality.
Yeah, I mean, what I can say first of all, there's a lot to unpack there. The first thing that I will say is it's really true. I had talked to you about this before several times, like privately, that it's going to be really weird to tell people. It reminds me of classic WoW, like, oh, just wait for Nax Ramus, or just wait for these other end game raids that come out before the game gets difficult, challenging, fun, exciting, whatever. And people aren't going to wait for that, right? They want to do. You release this video, how difficult is raids in Lost Ark? People want to see something close to that, right? And if you tell them, oh, that won't be out for a year, 2 years, or whatever, like whatever the timeline is, right?
That video was a mistake, by the way.
It was a great video. It was
I just feel so bad from some of the comments that I read of people like, what is this? What are these Fisher Price mechanics? This is not a game.
I'm on that fight right now. I'm doing that it's on Russia right now. We'll talk about that. But so anyway, that's what I would say the positives are, is that we're getting caught up to the current version as close as we can, as fast as we can, without making it like way too overwhelming to Korea and these other regions, right? That's what we want, is to be as close in terms of the timeline, right? And we're getting way more content, right? The way I would describe this to somebody is, imagine a modern Final Fantasy expansion or a modern WoW expansion, but instead of getting the first patch, you're getting the whole expansion all at once in terms of like how much content there is to do. It's like an entire game all at once, and then we're going to be building off of that, right? Not waiting for a new patch, or it's all there at the launch, which is pretty exciting, right? That's usually the biggest complaint of anybody getting into an MMO, is the lack of content. This is a situation where it's, for a lot of people, too much content. It's a lot, right? So that leads me into some of the downsides of this change, right? And I'll start with one that I think a lot of people will. I'm obviously a bigger proponent of this change. Do I think it could have been done a little bit differently? Sure. But ultimately, I think the biggest downside for some people is going to be FOMO, like they want to keep up. But I feel like that's, for me, and you can say how you feel about it, but I ultimately feel like FOMO is something that exists in every single MMO, right? When you're leveling, man, like these people are already level 60, like they're already, they're already doing the end game raids. Like, I'm still leveling. That happens all of the time in every MMO. But it's also, for me, as an old school MMO player, someone that got me really it made me want to keep playing, seeing people that were further ahead of me, and like me wanting to keep playing to like get there. Right? You would check like zone, like the zone, and see like who's the highest level in your zone. Things like that always got me, as much as I didn't really like the feeling of FOMO, it also kept me playing the game. I just don't think it's a thing that, I think that's, if you've never played an MMO, if you've never experienced FOMO, it's always there. How do you feel about it? What are some of the negatives of this change? I would say that's one of them for me, but what would you say it is?
I mean, first, I would agree. I think it could have been done a little bit better, because I think there are people that want to be able to take their time, but also want the content to drip at a reasonable pace. So they could have condensed the update cycle and made it so that, tier 2 comes out in like a month, or a tier 3 comes out like a month after that. So like you're constantly, you can see the finish line moving ahead of you in real time, instead of having that one long finish line all the way there already right from the get go. And then, as you said, FOMO, it creates a pressure of a rat race, where you constantly feel like, as we mentioned before, that what progression you're currently doing is, you could be somewhere further ahead, and it could be pronounced a little bit more in Lost Ark, because unlike games like World of Warcraft and whatnot, this game is a time gated game. Lots of contents are time gated, and if you feel like you're not at the higher contents right from the get go, you're not doing the content for you're not getting your
Well,
your
World of Warcraft
lockouts.
is a very time gated game, extremely time gated.
I haven't
I would
played in a
argue
very
it's
long
more
time.
time. I mean, I would just say I don't think this concept is going to be unfamiliar to anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I also want to point out that I think, with all the discussions going on right now on things like the unofficial Discord, on the forums and
Hmm.
Steam, that I would like to imagine that the better majority of players actually don't really care about this kind of thing to begin with, because they're not comparing themselves with other players to begin with. They just see a game, a very full-fledged game, with a
Yeah.
lot of content ahead of them, very high ceiling for them to not run out of content anytime soon. And again, it's usually a bigger plus than a con when you have more content rather than less.
Yeah, so this was something that we were joking about, is that nobody, this is why we're making this video. Nobody even knows what this is, right? The small Western English speaking Lost Ark community knows what this means. The average person doesn't know what this means. They announced it on Twitter. Lots of people were like, "Oh, this is cool. Punica, new zone, whatever." Some guy said, "Oh, look, I wish you guys would have waited." And then somebody commented right underneath saying, "What is tier 3?" A lot of people don't know what this is. Like the average guy is just getting into the game and just gonna be like, "Oh, a new zone, new dungeons, let's go!" Right? He's gonna keep progressing in the game, and I think
Mm-hmm.
you know, ultimately it's a positive, not a negative. I had to choose one. If I had to choose one, but I think it could have been done maybe a
Yeah.
little bit better.
I'd also like to kind of like cover this a little bit more in that I feel like when people have a gripe with this kind of thing, it always comes back down to they want people to be able to progress together on a relatively even field. Because now, obviously, since this change is going through, people who have experience and kind of know what to do and how to progress faster, they will progress faster. Um, but Lost Ark has never ever been a game where if you fall behind, you can't catch up. If you just keep playing, the people that are ahead, they eventually slow down. Their progression slows down, and then during that time, you can catch up to them. And with a little bit of effort, you can make up whatever lost time that you made while you were learning the game, compared to, uh, you know, Joe from Russia, who is killing Seto already, one of the bosses in that tier 3 that we're talking about. You could be there too, and then maybe a few weeks later, play a little bit more than him, you've made up all that lost
I
time.
mean,
So
we'll touch on that as well because it's a really important point that people feel like, oh, like now do I have to play a lot more? Does anything change? And I'm a great example of that. A lot of the people in my group are a great example of that from Russia, right? My group that I raid with on Russia, as an example, some people started a month before me, a month after me. Me and Barb are at the same time, right? And she's up to
yeah,
current tier
I
content.
remember watching you guys fight Albion together.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? The current end game dungeon that you would experience in tier 3 on NA launch, right? So we were doing
yeah,
that together, and I'm at current end game content, right? But maybe I don't have as much completionist stuff, which we'll talk about all of that. Okay, so why do we think this change happened? Why do you think they decided to do this? We touched on this a little bit with the director's vision of the game, and at Low On they mentioned that we'll be getting Legion raids almost nearly right away, something like that along those lines. I don't want to misquote,
yeah.
but
I mean, this timeline is already so fast. I mean, the fastest region before NA and EU they got Legion generals was Japan, and they got them in uh 1.1 year and like 2 months. It took them from their launch. Um,
and this puts
looking
us
at
a
the
few months behind them only
Yeah,
at
just
the
a few months
launch.
behind them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would imagine that NA and EU arrives at Vulcan, the first Legion General, in well under 6 months now. Uh, and this is important because to cover on the question of why do we think that this happened, it's backed by statistics. It earnestly is.
Right. Very
Smilegate is
close.
looking at North America and Europe, and they're trying to think what kind of content will make people the most excited to keep wanting to play. Not content that will keep you trapped in the game, but content where you look at it and you're like, why would I play this other game when this game is awesome? They want to impress you with the game itself. And Legion raids historically are a point where the content gets so interesting and so good and so varied and so robust, that it tends to keep people more interested in sticking with the game long term rather than dropping it and then the potential that you never come back.
I mean, it's sick. Like the Legion raids, like as a newer, I know like as we do them more, we get used to them. But I'll never forget just I can't wait for people to experience what I experienced. I'll never forget like how I felt about some of these raids. They were just
Yeah,
so sick my first time doing them, man. Like I haven't
yeah,
gotten that feeling in years. And I'm not just saying this to like, I really am a big person that's been saying a lot like Lost Ark isn't a game for everybody. You may not like the game, just give it a shot, whatever. Like I'm not saying this game is going to is the next amazing MMO. I'm not saying any of that, but I will openly say that I think my experience doing those Legion raids the first time was some of the best raiding experience I've ever had in my life. I really
yeah.
do
And
mean
it's
that.
really fun. It's really fun to watch too. If you're a content creator and you're watching this YouTube video and you're reacting to it or something like that, like please understand something that's so great about Lost Ark as a streamer. It's a really watchable game.
Yeah.
There's some MMOs out there that are fun to play, but they are miserable to watch as a viewer. Lost Ark's always pretty damn fun to watch, no matter what you're doing. So it has
Yeah.
that going for
Lots
it.
of
It's a good perk.
lots of solo content and like 1v1 content and just try to solo a guardian raid. I want to solo a vault, and these are just like little things that you can do, but just the raiding experience is really fun, especially your first time
Yep.
through. I think you'll love it. So obviously, to summarize that answer though, they want to get us to that point in the game, um, as
Yep.
soon
With
as
the highest
possible.
satisfaction.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about more of some of these leaks and what build we might be getting and things like that in a little bit. Okay. But does this now, there's a lot to talk about here. Okay. Does this change the approach that players should have on the game? And my take on this is no. Ultimately, you're going to be going through tier 1, tier 2. There's going to be some people that are going to be going through tier 1 at a slower pace. There's going to be people like me and you maybe that finish it in the first reset, whatever, right? I don't know, but there's going to be a lot. But remember, me and you are literally 1% of the community that are going
Less.
less that are going to be getting into the game, right? So there's going to be a ton of people that are like still leveling, right? Going through and doing whatever, and none of that stuff. The one thing that I really do love about Lost Ark is none of that is wasted time. All of the side quests that you do, the collectible content, the adventure book, like all of that is beneficial. And it's something that I always neglect. And I know that's going to be my Achilles heel. Like I'm going to slack on that. The islands, all of that stuff, right? It doesn't hurt you to be the slow and steady in this game easily wins the race, right? In some ways, I should say at least. And I don't think you should change your approach at all. There's going to be tons of people paced throughout the game. But, there's weekly
Yeah.
checklists, collectibles. We're going to go through some of these. But first, do you think people should change their approach whatsoever from their initial tier 1
No,
plans?
I really hate. I know it's a pretty strong word, but I really hate some of the agenda that some people are pushing, where they're really, really trying to say like level up to 50, then immediately start your first, second, third, and fourth alt, and get them up to 50 in the first 24 hours. And I'm like, excuse me? Are you playing a game or are you working in a factory? And Lost Ark is so much more than that. And it's a long-term game. That's really the big thing that I really want to stress. Lost Ark is a game that you play for years. You can play it for years, and there's no reset along the way. And so whether you squander a few days or not, in the grand scheme of things, it does not matter. I skip dailies all the time. I play the game like 8 hours every day, but I often find that I have many characters. I don't play all of them every day. I just play the ones that I want to have fun on. And you should take that approach as well, because Lost Ark is more than just a raiding game. It's more than a game just for PvP. The game has so much side content, and it's only going to keep growing as we go through 2022 when they keep expanding on that, as we've seen during on. Take it as a full-fledged experience, because those are the kind of games that I think do the best when it comes to this genre.
Yeah, this game, I hadn't played an MMO like it in a while in terms of it is a long-term MMO, right? You're not looking at like you can catch up to like you can catch up in some ways pretty quickly with events and just whatever, right? Like you could buy gold to catch up, whatever, right? But like there's a lot of like work that goes into your account and that I didn't
Yeah.
like, notice. And like when I see somebody in town, you'll get that feel like, whoa, like this dude's a badass. And I'll look at like how many, like what his bravery's at and stuff like that, just to see like how long he's been playing and how much he's completed in the game, right? And you can get that sense because he's put a lot of time into it. So what Saint's really saying, and I agree, is that there's no rush. I'm gonna be super chill, dude. Maybe I might play a lot and I might get sweaty or whatever, but like I'm not worried about. I'm not the biggest min maxer ever, and you don't need to be the biggest min maxer in Lost Ark.
Yeah,
You
I
can
do want
be.
to say though, like if you want to be one, you could do that, and that's how you derive fun in an MMO. At the
Yeah.
expense of potentially burning out. Go for it. You can do it. Just don't let anybody else, whether it's your friend Joe from Russia or like me or
Yeah.
Stoopzz, dictate how you play. Go through it at your own pace and figure out what contents you want to do. You'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll keep up with people.
Don't listen to the Russian
Yeah.
veteran on the forums or whatever that's telling you got to do all this stuff. Anyway, that's just a little meme, but okay, so we have like, when it comes to the weekly checklist, it's, these are things that I got, by the way. The reason why I'm bringing up these specific weekly checklists, collectibles, we'll talk about making alts. These are questions that were brought up during my stream, and I wrote them down so we could talk about. So the weekly checklist stays the same. Guardian raids, you do them when you do them per lockout. Chaos dungeons, dailies, it's the same thing. And then working on your islands and collectible content outside of that, maybe working on an alt, right? It's the
Yeah.
same game.
Yeah, more or less. I would say that the Lost Ark, you tend to find that you don't have enough hours in the day when you play the game.
Yeah.
You do your dailies. It might take you like, if you're brand new, it might take you like 2 hours to knock out your dailies. If you're experienced, maybe it'll take you a bit less than an hour. But the game is so much more than just those few dailies,
Yeah.
and you have to find a way to plot your day around all the other things that are happening, like world bosses, chaos gates, an island is spawning, or the adventure island in general. When are you gonna do your weekly raids? Are you gonna do it on weekly reset, or are you gonna do it near
Yeah.
the end of the reset with the rejects? And it's
Affinity,
like,
knocking out that as well. And
yeah, there's so many other things that you can do, and those are not daily gated, but they are sitting there waiting for you to do them. So you have to plan your day in Lost Ark when you're going to do each of these things, but still doing your dailies if you want to do them and you're not skipping them to build up rest or something.
just pick and choose sometimes. I don't finish everything. I never finish everything. You know what I mean? But I have friends that do. They actually have a spreadsheet. I'm not kidding. My friend Mata has a spreadsheet, and he's really all about it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, should this change somebody's approach to collectibles, right? Because you have island hearts, which are things that you guys will learn about. Probably videos are going to come out about these. There's guides already about collecting island hearts. You get rewards from doing that. This is like collectible content, or more completionist, I should say, content, where you go off and do these island events and you get rewarded for them. And there's a vendor in the game that you collect from doing these islands. You get these island hearts and you go to the vendor and you can get rewards depending on how many you have. Sometimes getting 20 of them is really important for skill points, but then also there's like vanity items and things like that from them. But as far as the skill points and those go, getting at least the first 20, should players wait to do this? Does it matter? My answer is it doesn't matter. Just do it whenever you feel like you want to do it.
I mean, it's just as we just discussed. It's like the content will always be there waiting for you, not locked by a daily. And so, you do it when you want to do it, and then you eventually unlock those skill points, and then you're done. It's permanently unlocked forever for the rest of your time playing Lost Ark on your current character and every future character beyond that. So, even though these are one-time things, there's so many of these one-time things for you to do.
Mm-hmm. What about alts? Right? Because, is there? I know I'm just gonna. I don't have a plan. I literally don't have. I'm gonna make my first character. Then I'm like, all right, I'll make the second. I don't have a plan. So, but Should players have a plan with alts? Because now that they're getting the tier
Maybe
three.
get your name.
Okay, yeah.
If you're very partial to a name, um,
Yeah.
and just be mindful if you're gonna do that. Apparently, we've learned that if you delete a character, I don't know why this is so weird. The name goes into the void and it can't be used again.
Yeah, we don't
So
know how long either. Some
if you're gonna reserve a name, make sure it's on the class that you want to actually play long term. That means if it's of an archetype that hasn't come out yet, like the artist, for example, you actually can't reserve a name for that in advance. But
yeah.
when it comes to alts themselves, um, it's very difficult for me to stress the importance of it because at times it is and at times it isn't. For example, with the islands, some of you guys might be familiar from the beta. Islands carried progression. It wasn't Mari's shop bugging or anything else or the daily contents.
Dream Goal Island, right? Just insane amounts of
Yeah,
mats.
those they gave an insane amount. We don't know if they're still going to give an insane amount of materials, but we do know that they give some form of materials, and it's usually enough where it could help carry one character along progression. And so if you really wanted to, you probably don't need alt initially if you're just trying to enjoy the game right from the get-go. But eventually it might be something that you want because we can't deny the fact that when you have alts, your material income goes up. With just 2 alts, you're basically getting double the amount of materials each day. And so it's good to have eventually, but I wouldn't rush it at the expense of potentially burning out. Because not everyone has the mental to do, like a 9-10 hour story back to back. So it's best if you take the time to explore the game. And when you feel like, well, I've had my fun playing a berserker, I kind of want to see what playing the game as a sorceress is like. That's when you play an alt. Like
Yeah.
my, I just want to say, like, back then, if you made an alt, you made it because you wanted to play that class. You didn't do it out of some sort of financial or material incentive. You just thought that class looks cool. That class beat my ass in PvP. That class got MVP. I want to try that class too. And if anything, classes has always been a strength of Lost Ark. It should be appealing to you to want to play an alt.
Yeah, I don't know where this got super. Nugi was just talking about this. He's coming from PoE. He's playing Lost Ark. Had this little rant thing he did, and he was talking about how he has one character, and I don't think he even came into Lost. Now there's probably catch-up islands and things like that, but he has one character, and he was talking about how much fun he's been having and how he just enjoys playing as one character. So I don't know this idea of like you need a ton of alts. I really hate this narrative, to be honest. And I also want to say that like a lot of these people that you see having all of these alts to make gold, right? That you hear them, oh, we make they have like 10 alts because they want to make gold. Now it's limited to 6, by the way, right? But at least in KR, you can collect gold on six alts if you're rating, right? But it's an investment in itself. Like you see a lot of people, they invest a lot of these alts, a lot of their gold. It's going to take you a while to make that gold, that investment back, right? Like that gold back. I know a lot of people that if they didn't juice up so many of these alts, they would be a lot higher item level or they'd have a lot more mats or whatever progression on their main. So my whole thing is I'm just going to make alts because I want to play a new class, and that's my approach. You know what I mean? And
I always make the newest class that comes out because I think it's good content.
yeah. Yeah.
For streaming as a streamer. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to play, right? Good content for you as a player as well, just to play. So should just be like that, man. You want to play something, it sounds fun, you make one, and it's beneficial, right? Having an alt doesn't take away from your main. It benefits your main, right? That's how you should think about it. You shouldn't be needing to have this armada of characters. It's absolutely nonsense. Some people will do it, but I have 3. Some of my friends have 7. Some of my friends
We're
have
just trying
10.
to stress for you to not burn out. We don't want people to pressure you into doing something that you feel like you must play the game. That's the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Good. So we covered that up. Same approach, just more content now. Okay. But since we are talking about mains, let's talk about this tier 3. A lot of people, we're going to talk about, let's say you are locked in on your main character. Okay? And before, a lot of the advice was, and I'm guilty of this too, was, right? Don't worry about your main character yet. It's not the end of the world. Just try out some stuff. It doesn't really matter till you get to tier 3 anyway. Right? That's what a lot of people were saying. I said this.
Yeah.
So, does it now matter what your main decision is going to be going into Lost Ark?
I mean, while you're leveling, while on the path to tier 3, some of you guys may be leveling multiple classes just to try them out along the way, and you might be able to lock in by then. But I think that this question is also pertinent to people who maybe their main class is not available in the initial roster of 15, and it's a future release class. And they're wondering, and they're concerned, if I start playing and heavily investing my time and efforts into tier 3, I raise my character to a really high item level, how will I ever potentially re-roll out of it when I've invested so much time into it? And my only respite that I can give you is you do it over time. You keep playing. You pick the current main you did because you must have enjoyed it to at least some semblance, so you can live with it being your main for the time being. When they eventually release a class that you want to play, or you eventually find the class that you want to play, if it's from the original lineup, you can slowly work on it overtaking where your current main is. You'll invest more of your unbound time and efforts into that character, and it will eventually surpass where your current main is. And then that's when you have officially switched mains, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was bringing this up to somebody, this kind of links to that. So, you don't know what to play. You can try some stuff out early on, right? Just try them out through tier 1 a little bit. You don't have to put that much investment into it. You're still trying classes out. Hey, it's going to benefit you as well having those characters in the first place, right? Having those alts are going to be beneficial for whatever content you're doing. And then let's say, well, now the question is, well, my class isn't out yet. And now I don't have my class going into tier 3. Well, you don't even know when your class would be coming out. That's your class could come out. What are you waiting for, right? Let's say you're waiting for, oh man, I really want to play Lance Master. What if Lance Master doesn't come out for 8 months?
You're going to scare the Lance
I'm being
Master.
honest. We don't know, right? Scouter doesn't come out. Okay, Scouter doesn't come out for 8 months. Reaper doesn't come out for 8 months. You're just going to wait for 8 months, right? So
yeah.
My recommendation, at least for me, would just be like, if that's really the class that you want to play, get to that content and start farming mats. Start saving up. That's what you did for Sork. Yes. Right? Start stockpiling those mats up, that gold, whatever. Class comes out and you juice it up with all of the savings that you had to do the best that you can to catch up. And hopefully, and oftentimes with a lot of these classes, depending on how long the game has been out for at least, we probably could expect some kind of launch event for a class, some kind of event that helps people get going on that class anyway. We see them from time to time, at least in these other regions. And I don't think it's too far-fetched to believe that if the class comes out down the road deeper into tier 3, they'll have some kind of event for players like you. We see this a lot in Lost Ark, at least.
Yeah. I really just want to clarify the point regarding like difficult to switch mains. Difficulty, when we talk about difficulty and switching mains, we're talking about, I have this main character, I want to play something else. How hard is it for me to, in one day and with minimal effort, switch so that one is now the new class is my leading character
in terms of power level and everything, caught up to my
If we're talking about like an instantaneous thing, it is fairly difficult, but that's instantaneous. And remember what we said, Lost Ark's a long-term game. If you take your time, you'll eventually overtake it. You'll eventually be able to make the switch. It won't be necessarily difficult. It just takes some time, and you'll eventually be able to switch it. So don't worry if your class comes out way later on down the line, or you can't settle on a main right away. When you do, once you begin investing your efforts into it in due time, you'll be able to bring that class up to where everyone else is.
Yeah, and like just an example, like who knows when we get, let's say a year from now, your class finally comes, 8 months from now, your class comes out. What if we have an express event, some type of an express event, right? That could help you get there. And on top of that, what I do want to add though, those are like far and few between, but that could happen. But also what I do want to add is that because all of the things that we talked about earlier in terms of taking your time and doing all of these islands, getting these skill points, and maybe you're doing these events and getting these cards, you're still making progress on that character whether you're playing it or not. Because when you do switch over, a lot of the work that you have put in on your account or server will benefit that character. You will have had, maybe you have a card deck now. Maybe you have max skill points. Maybe you collected all of the runes that that class needs. You can still make headway on that class when you're not even playing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can just mention just a few of those things that carry over. If you have a good pet, that's going to carry over. All your mounts are going to carry over. Your card sets are going to carry over. Your passive stats are going to carry over. If you have collected a bunch of gems, because that's now a system that you'll have to deal with, you can actually move those over and you can re-roll them to the class. They'll be unbound. You could level up your current character to level 60, and then when the class comes out that you want to play comes out, you can use the training system in a house, and you can very rapidly get it up to level 59 in just a few weeks. And you'll be able to take so much of the hard work that you did now with all those skill runes and everything that you've collected up until this point, and it will benefit that class when it comes out for you. Like when I make a new class today, the very moment it steps foot into the game, it already has 101 skill points. Whereas the average player, when you start normally, you have 0. I can max out 2 skills right from level 10 when I meet Amon, because of all that work that I did previously. It's account wide.
Lost Ark is a game that makes it easy to make alts, but it also, ironically, values the time it took you that you invested in your main. So all we're saying is it's not as easy to get this alt character right to your main, right? Otherwise, in a lot of ways, I made this video saying Lost Ark respects your time as like a clickbaity title. But that's what and in a lot of ways, that's what I think, right? If I invest a lot of time into something, I don't want to know that somebody can just instantly catch up to all the hard work I've put in, right? It should take a little bit of time as well for all the things I've done on my account, right? That should mean something, right? I should get what I'm putting into the game. Get out.
All this advice that we're giving is just stressing the point of there's no actual real sense of urgency. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I hate this YouTube meta. I'm old. I'm old now, and I don't like this, like, just the best, like the best way to level your character, the best way to get skill point. It's like, dude, you know what I mean?
That's a lot of them.
And then that's what happens.
Crazy.
That's what happens, right? Like, then it's like, dude, man, Lost Ark's coming out, man. I'm going to go so hard, dude. It's going to be insane. I got monsters, Cheetos. And the guy quits in like a week because he burns out and he goes plays Elden Ring, right? Bat chest. It's just like, those are the things. Those are like the things that go through my head, when I hear all this stuff. So anyway, we're making good time. So I'm going to keep going here. We're actually doing pretty well. Okay, so don't worry about it. You can farm. You can put in work on this new character that you want to play down the road. Skill points, runes, gems, cards, just everything, right? You can save up mats, gold, materials, resources. So when that class comes out, you can catch it up a lot faster than I think you would think. Okay? Let's talk about level boosts, though, and the treatment of, I guess we can tie a lot into this. So let's start off with the treatment that NA is getting from Smilegate, right? The unprecedented launch, right? The attention to a lot of these issues. We're getting the KR voice acting that players had asked for. We're getting tier 3 launch. They're altering some of the way that the balancing that players had talked about. There's more stuff to come out as well that they had mentioned. But they're altering how the game is. And do you think, are we going to see similar events to what we see in Korea? Do we think that NA is going to get this special treatment, at least something comparable to what Korea gets? Because I, as you know, I've been dabbling in Korea, and wow, it's like insane all the stuff that you guys have going on over there.
Really crazy how you get on a plane and fly over to Korea, do a stream, and come back.
My girlfriend's over there, so she's got that nice private jet for me, so I just fly on over there for the night, crash on her couch, come back the next morning. You know what I mean? No problem.
People are gonna make Gage jokes. Anyways,
Yeah.
um, so this topic actually scrambles my brain a little bit from someone who has a background working in the video game industry in general. So this is my perspective as someone who formerly years back worked at Nexon, and how I interacted with people, well, developers, as a publisher. And one recurring trend that I noticed a lot in the past with a lot of Korean MMOs that came over to the West is they changed very little about the game when they ported it over from the East to the West. And oftentimes and not, it was just an older version of what Korean players were already playing. And in many cases, that ended up being the downfall of the game because the game just wasn't well suited and it wasn't well tailored to what a Western audience was looking for, whether that being the game itself or its monetization strategies. And we haven't seen the article that Amazon is planning on releasing regarding monetization, but we've already seen a lot of changes that they've made that are related to monetization and making the game, at least on airs, appear less pay to win, which it's a major topic and a contentious topic for Western players. And so it amazes me how many changes are being made to this game for the North American and European launch and South American launch, because I've never seen it at this magnitude before from another Korean game. And what I'm trying to figure out is, where do they have the manpower develop all this stuff and also maintain the speed at which they're pushing out updates in like Korea, and then a different build in Japan, and then a different build in Russia? They are working crazy hard. I
Mhm.
actually put out a tweet just yesterday. uh Players just think that Smilegate is overworked. They literally think
Oh,
that the
well, we were
workers
talking about
are.
this during Low On. It's like a little factory over there where they're up all night and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And just a brief recap of that tweet is that players from the Korean community, they crowdfunded a little under 20,000 US dollars, and they put up ads in Pangyo Station. Pangyo is a city in Korea that's just really famous for where a lot of studios are, because they knew that the people that are working at Smilegate passed through that station on their commute to work, and they would see, you know, Iga Baba,
Yeah,
they would
yeah,
see the
yeah. The
Mokoko
Coco
man,
guy,
and
yeah.
they would read it, and they'd be like, "Wait, did we put that up?" And then it was just like a message of gratitude. And these guys are working so hard to making sure that every single region uh, has the best possible version of Lost Ark for it. But they're taking even more attention, more than I could observe, for North America and Europe and South America to have the best version of Lost Ark possible. Because let's be real here. Let's look back at history. Every launch of Lost Ark prior to North America and Europe, the launch of it back in season one for Korea and Russia, and season two for Japan, all those launches did not succeed. But they recovered and they did better with time. And with each time, they learned what they could do better for the next game's launch. And if I look at Japan's launch and I look at North America and Europe's launch, it's night and day. Japan launched with half of tier one as their launch content. North America and Europe launching all the way up to tier three,
Yeah.
you'll have there's no end of things that you'll be able
Yeah.
to do, and the amount of quality of life difference between now and then is unreal. And even the monetization strategies are just so much different. Like being able to buy sub with in-game
Gold.
money without having to spend real money, that's absurd to me. And players in North America and Europe are spending, I think the amount is like around $10 for what I have to pay in Korea, around like $25 for sub. And it's
Dude,
like everything they did do is like catered, because I think that the director and Smilegate in general sees North America, Europe, and the Western launch as the next big community for Lost
dude,
Ark and the globalization of the game.
so many of the changes that we saw at Low On, I was like, oh, that seems like a really good change for NA. Whether it be the horizontal content, the Blue Crystal change for the end of dungeon loot, we talked about that being a big. I remember me and you were like in Discord talking about like, man, it'd be really cool if they would change that, and they did. And
Yeah.
there's more things that they've changed just in this last patch with I think some of the Argos the class accessories, the mount speed being normalized, which was whatever, but it was just an appearance thing, and they made that change too, and all of these other things. with the game that, you know, like will either be in our build, or I'm assuming are going to make it to our build. You know, just so many of the monetization things, the appearance of things they've made, which already as a player, like I didn't mind any of these things, but
Yeah.
I was so happy that they're doing it. And it's crazy to me while we're talking about all of this, you know, with the pacing of what they put out content and all of these changes and quality of life features, and just how they do things over there. Most games, dude, you got to pay for a box cover cost, a subscription fee, you're paying for expansions. There's a cash shop. You literally could spend $0 in Lost Ark and get a game like that. It's insane to me, right? It's not. I promise you, Lost Ark is one of these games like, oh well, you have to spend. Like, you have to spend. You don't have to spend any money in law. You don't need these founders packs at all, right? Like you don't have to spend any money, and you're getting all of that because someone else is willing to spend money. It's a pretty good deal. You know, I'm still surprised at the quality of the game in general. And obviously it's not a perfect game. I'm not here to sell you on it's a perfect game. It's not. And there's things every
Yeah.
day that I would
You know,
change. But
I think you'll always see a lot of Korean people rave about the game because the bar was just set so low. It was so low. So this game basically came out, and it might as well be the savior of South Korean MMOs, essentially.
yeah.
It reflects in its player count. I mean, more people play Lost Ark in Korea than people play New World in the entire world. Threefold. There's literally
That's
three times more Lost Ark Korean players than New World in the entire world. That's not to rag on New World. I'm sorry.
I
Sir.
mean, it is though, right? It's a subtle,
Yeah.
whether you try or not. It is funny, you know.
It's just to really capture the scope of just how many people are actually playing this game and like the game and like the developers. You'd be surprised at how hard it is to find an MMO developer nowadays where you actually like the developer. You don't hate them for some reason.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, obviously we don't have any insight into like these boosts that we see that oftentimes Korea gets free boosts, level boosts all the time to get these events. But I would assume with a lot of the changes that we're seeing, and maybe we get more details coming up here soon, with a lot of the special treatment that I see we're getting over in the West, I think it's fair to assume that we'll probably get good treatment over here as well from Smilegate.
I would hope so. I think there's a lot of people that are worried that despite how successful Korea is doing, that they won't give the same level of care and affection towards the Western audience. But I really feel like the director is very he seems to care a lot about the success of North America and Europe. So I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt that you'll see a first tier interaction with him, similar to how you might see it with Yoshi P and how he interacts with people.
Hope so. Yeah.
In the English community as well. I would like to hope so. Dude, you know that? Did you see that one video? That one video that someone made, Lost Ark shills.
Zenson made that.
Yeah, the one where we're all dancing and everything. We're just like, these are the guys that are trying to sell you on this game. Dude, we're talking a lot of ups about Lost Ark. I feel like we should be balancing it out right now.
Yeah, well, let me think about all right, I got one. Here we go. I got it. It's coming up anyway. All right. So with we're talking about special treatment that NA is getting, and with that special treatment, we're getting this tier 3 launch because they obviously know we NA, everyone assumed that they would want faster paced content. EU wants faster paced content. The West wants faster paced content. So we're getting that tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And with that, there's a lot of progression systems that are going to be added on top of that, like gems and tripods and obviously you have engravings, gear sets, and all that stuff, right? A lot of progression that's going to be going there. Engravings already confusing as hell. Okay? For the average person. I know you taught me how to do them. I remember we were in a call and me and you cut my first stone. It was sick. Still the most confusing system ever for any MMO I've played personally. Not saying it is the
Lost Ark does not do the best job of explaining its systems in game. It's definitely a weak point of the game.
Weak point of the game. Do you first of all, I would say Lost Ark's going to be for more of an MMO enthusiast. It's not going to be. You can definitely be more casual in certain aspects of the game, but I would say the end game content is more of the MMO enthusiast type. Whereas, like, obviously, you can do sailing content and life scaling and whatever, and maybe some of the horizontal content that comes down the road. Do we think that with all of this, it's going to be overwhelming? Do we think that since you're going through tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, you'll be fine because you're going through all of these systems, first runes, then gems, then tripods with engravings all at once? Or do we think that, you were there to hold my hand, there wasn't really any guides, now there might be guides. Do we think that will be enough to carry people through all of these systems and progression systems? Because they are a little bit complex.
You know what the beautiful thing is? It's that historically, looking back at a lot of MMOs that have came out and failed, a lot of them, if they were lacking, there often wouldn't be a community of people that would make the resources needed that players would need if the game didn't explain it well. Lost Ark already has sites.
Well,
Coming
Maxwell is a
out.
new one. I mean, that one is fantastic as well. We had Papanika, but Maxwell has a lot of great guides on there. I'll have it
Yeah,
linked down below.
we have a good handful of sites now that have popped up that have all these guides populated. I'm gonna try and my plan after this stream is I'm gonna go and scrap the NA and EU version of my Google Doc and just go back to the original Google Doc and just update it, just so all the information is there.
That will be linked
But
below too. I'll have all of that stuff that we're talking about down below.
nice. But yeah, you are right. It's a lot of systems. A lot of them are really convoluted. I've seen many people ask questions about them. Maybe they haven't played the game yet, but they see me tinkering around with these systems, and it just looks very confusing. Doesn't help that it's all written in Korean. But that being said, the game does introduce you to these systems piecemeal, one by one. When you're in tier 1, you're not dealing with gems, and you're not dealing with tripod levels yet. You're just dealing with getting your engravings and finding sources of skill points and skill runes, which stick with you forever. Then when you move to tier 2, you're going to jump up in your equipment, and then you're going to do it again, everything that you just did, but you'll be a little bit stronger this time across the board. But now they'll throw the gem system into play, and you learn, okay, I equip these gems on, and they boost the damage of my skills or lower the cooldowns. And then you'll start to look into your class and figure out which ones are the ideal ones that you want to put gems into to augment your skills. And that's it for tier 2. Nothing else changes in tier 2. Then you go from tier 2 to tier 3, and then that's when, okay, now I have to start transferring these tripod levels onto my armor so that I could raise my tripod levels. Which, by the way, systematically, that makes no sense whatsoever. But you get used to it really quickly, and then you learn how to do library transfers and all these little tricks to make it a little bit easier. It sounds a lot.
Yeah,
and the game
tripods sound confusing, but
yeah,
engravings I think are the most confusing.
But yeah, I think it won't be too bad as long as you don't rush through it too quickly. Just focus on the systems that are pertinent to where you are, and then when you get to the next system, take some time, sit down, study it, maybe look up a guide because there's plenty of them, or just like knock on a streamer's door and just ask them directly. We love getting those questions. You can ask them as many times as you want. And then just repeat that with each new system. And then there are certain systems that are there forever, like the card system. It's something that's good for you to read up on, but you don't focus on it.
Yeah.
It's just something that you'll passively work on while you're making that journey through tier 1, tier 2, tier 3.
Yeah. Good explanation. That's fantastic explanation. And I actually 100% agree. I think that, overall, though, maybe that's a downside to Lost Ark. It's definitely, I wouldn't say the most simple progression MMO in terms
it's definitely not intuitive. For sure.
And like, you're not going to go in there like, oh, it's more of an MMO enthusiast game. You have to like really want to like, but that's also the fun of the game. There's so many different things that you can do. Look at
those Path of Exile players with how they plan stuff out. It's crazy. Some people love planning stuff out.
Planning stuff, making builds, trying all these different customization options. It has that, but that might make it not for everyone.
Okay? Yeah, of course.
Okay. So we talked about special treatment. We talked about systems that players can experience and things like that. Let's talk about now some fun stuff, and then we'll wrap it up with one last topic here, because I think we've done a pretty good job here and we're doing okay on time, so we got time for a little bit. Let's talk about the latest build. What build can we expect based on some of these leaks? Okay, we're gonna talk about these leaks. All right, and people come to my chat asking about the DirectX 11 build. Are we getting that? Are we getting the latest stuff that we saw at Low-On or what's on the KR build? And none of us can really answer for certain. But there are all these videos coming around of like some
if
guy.
I say too much, I'll get in trouble.
Right. There's like all these things showing online, right? Can we at least say that it's fair to assume, based on what we've seen and everything, maybe I can answer this. Is it fair to assume that we'll get these quality of life changes sooner rather than later?
Well, I can't directly answer that question at risk of, I don't know, losing a sponsorship or something. There's historical trends that actually show what you can expect. Funny story. I remember at the beginning of this program, I talked about season 1, season 2, and how season 1 was like a bad memory that you just forget about. When season 2 first came out, you know who the first people that got to experience season 2 were? It was the Japanese server. The Japanese server, in their open beta of their test, that was the very first time that season 2 was ever deployed before even Korean players ever got a chance to try it out themselves. Quality of life is not tied to a server's age. It is not tied to a certain content tier. It is not tied to any of that stuff.
And it shouldn't be.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't be. It is the kind of thing that should come over to every region as quickly as possible if it universally makes the game experience better. And we've seen it time and time again where certain regions that might be younger might be getting certain quality of life faster than servers that are older. And so I think it is very fair to assume, especially since we've kind of observed some of these quality of life and kind of determined, hey, this would be really good on a fresh region, while you're leveling from 1 to 50 or something like that. Whereas all these other regions, they're not really leveling from 1 to 50 that much anymore because they're boosting and that kind of stuff. It's really fair to assume that most of these changes will most likely be there for you at the start because they are so concerned with making that first impression as enjoyable as possible.
I can speak on this and at least say that I'm pretty confident we'll see a lot of these quality of life changes at the start, right? Because just with all the stuff that they're doing, I can't imagine that it wouldn't be there, right? And then them getting constant, you can see it. Rock's talking about getting constant builds or getting new updates often, so it's causing delays in announcements. I expect to see there a lot of these things, like even the Korean voice acting thing, right? We're getting voice acting with subtitles.
Yeah, that's only possible because Smilegate self-publishes, right? So they have their rights to their own.
Russia. We can't get Russia or Japan.
We can't get Russia or Japan because those are published and handled by a completely, different external group. So it's really cool that we got the Korean voice acting. I think a lot of people will really like those voices.
I'm included in that because I didn't want the clown. Whatever. No flame.
So nitpicking. I feel so bad if that guy is watching this video right now.
No, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's not.
It's hard to do that voice.
It's hard. It's hard. It's not the guy's fault. Yeah. I thought his voice was fine. It's just, I'm coming from this clown and then this, the name didn't help. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, not whatever. I'm nitpicking. I'm nitpicking about the font as well. But I'll take the.
What you said about like Rocks writing on the forum, like how they keep getting these delays and they keep getting these builds. I get this really funny mental image in my head at Smilegate headquarters. The director's like, "What are you working on?" "Oh, that's cool. Put that in. Put that in." "No, it doesn't matter that the game is releasing in 2 weeks. Put that in."
It does feel like that with a lot of this stuff, right? So yeah. I'm stoked because the reason why the voice acting thing is that was a recent thing that was brought up and they're doing it. That was recent. And also just to show you like this, I know I'm building up, whatever, like call me a shill. The game's sick. I really enjoy playing the game. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like
I'll shill for a good game.
I'll shill for a good game too, man. That's what it would sound like if I like something, right? I'm either being too, when I was playing WoW, I was too negative because I liked it. I was pissed, right? And then if I really like something, I'm happy, I'm going to shill for it, right? because I'm having fun.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, it's not for everyone. You may not like this game. You might like other
Yeah.
MMOs. Not saying it's for
A
everybody.
lot of you guys probably won't
Like
like
this
it
game.
because it's just so different. You might not even like the fact that it's top down
Top
or click
down.
to move.
Right.
Yeah, that's the turn off for some people, and I mean, got other options in that case.
Not.
But
You're gonna say something? Gonna cut you off?
no, I
I've
lost
been
my train of
Okay,
thought.
I've been doing pretty good at trying not to cut you off, but I'm not here to sell you on the game, but I am here to sell you on that. Give the game a shot. Don't like it, whatever. You know what I mean? It's free to play.
Yep.
But just because we're on the topic of them adding stuff in and making these changes, the 1v1 script, they just did that in KR as well. The update, you get the ability to now you can just.
That's a huge update.
People were asking about, can we get the ability to do 1v1, and now that you can at least instantly play against your friends in a 1v1 setting with equalized gear and everything.
Those custom lobbies too, they're cross server.
Yeah.
It's not cross region, so you won't be able to do it from like Europe to NA East or NA East to NA West, but all the servers within your region, you'll have the ability to make a very customized lobby for PvP. And you can start it undersized now, so you can just you can grab a buddy from your server or from another server and be like, hey, join up on this custom lobby, let's do some 1v1s. And you just play against them. You can just play 1v1 against them over and over.
Yeah.
You don't need a full lobby in order to do it anymore. You can do 2v2s. That's unprecedented. We've never played 2v2s in any version of this game ever because you needed 3 people to start a TDM. Now you can start a 2v2, and there's spectator slots so they can watch as well. They added camera controls on the numpad, so you can control the spectator camera using the numpad, which is great for casters and commentators who don't want to click on different POVs. They can use the numpad to switch between them. It's perfect for a tournament setting.
Yeah,
and
man.
why is this important?
The tournament's coming up.
Royal
with the
Roaders,
yeah, and the Royal Roaders as well.
Royal Roaders is next month. The esports scene for Lost Ark is coming back, and all these changes will help with making the production value of a tournament as awesome as possible.
We just had this 1v1 tournament, this community one, did pretty good. A lot of people enjoyed it, and that would have been a great feature as well. So it looks all this stuff. It's just what I like about the game and the people that make the game is they're constantly adding quality of life things, making changes, and it feels often, like feels very often. So I love that. Okay. Now we had some things about Steam achievements. I don't know anything about Steam achievements. Do you want to touch on that?
Dude, Steam achievements are
I don't know if
awesome.
Okay, go ahead and sell me on Steam achievements. I don't know what this is. You mentioned it was on the thing. I think I just skipped over it. Okay.
I don't want to sound like Blizzard right now, but do you not have a Steam account?
I don't, dude. You know what's crazy, man? I am the most inexperienced person with Steam. Somebody asked me to give them my Steam code. I don't even know what that was. I don't use Steam at all, dude. I have it, but
it's like back in the day. Some people might remember this, but like back when like Xbox 360 first came out, and like you bought a new game, it would have achievements, and then some people would like go gung ho with unlocking all these achievements because it felt like you were doing something. It's like collectibles in its own weird way. So a lot of the Steam achievements, they confirmed that the Steam achievements kind of sync up with achievements that you achieve in game. So you unlock it in game, and then it'll unlock it on your Steam profile as well. And then it's on your Steam profile, and if someone visits your Steam profile, they'll see you'll unlock the achievement, and then they hover over it. It tells them what percentage of people who own this game in their library have also unlocked that achievement. So let's say, for example, Vulcan comes out, and then the Hell mode comes out for it, and then there's an achievement to clear Helton Deathless for the Beastore title. And what if there's a little achievement for that? And then you unlock it, you get it on your Steam profile, and you hover over it. 0.0000001% of players have this achievement. Yeah. That's cool. You could pin it, and you know, it's just a nice thing for people who like achievements and also happen to have a Steam account.
Good.
I wasn't expecting them to have Steam achievements.
I mean, you're a big vanity achievement person anyway, right? So this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit in some ways, but never been like a big completionist kind of guy like that. So anyway, it was something that they mentioned.
It's one of those things that it sits there. If you want to do it, you do it, and then you do have some feeling of accomplishment while you're doing it. You see a progress of, oh, I've unlocked 60% of the achievements in the game, something like that.
Okay. Last one. We're out of here.
Okay.
All right. Lost Ark releasing with Tier 3. All of this stuff, you know, just not what anyone really expected. I would argue, you know, this makes it the largest MMO release in terms of content, I think, almost, arguably almost ever, maybe next to vanilla World of Warcraft in terms
Yeah,
of
I was thinking of Vanilla WoW. Because
that's
you started in Vanilla WoW and you just had that like all that content all the way through to
what it's
work
gonna
towards.
feel
But
like, I would say.
yeah, and to be clear, I think we're talking about actual launches of games, right?
Launches of
Not what they are
games.
today.
No, not like
So
right.
yeah, so like if we think about Final Fantasy 14, it didn't actually launch with that much content initially, where you would just keep working and working through all the nowadays it's huge, but um, yeah, I mean, I think most games that I've seen, they launched with way less, and I guess that's an advantage of the fact that Lost Ark is an old game technically,
Old.
and they've
I
got
think
a
your definition of old and my definition of old, old in
well,
terms.
it's not like World of Warcraft Maple Story Dofus old,
Yeah.
but it is much older than most MMOs are coming out today. I feel like I'm beating on a dead horse, but like look at New World, look at PSO2, New Genesis. These games are games that came out fairly recently. Content drought, complete content drought,
Right.
and it is a problem that um, Lost Ark might have faced had it been a younger game like those, but they've had a lot of time to build up the contents, diversify the contents, and so it helps a lot with padding it out and making it feel like a more full-fledged experience.
Right. So this is going to make it one of the large, I would say one of, we could say one of the
Yeah,
largest
that's
MMO
fair.
releases in terms of content, right? There is going to be so
Yeah.
much to do, and I'm going to ask you, I'll give you mine first. With all of this news coming out, with the launch just around the corner, what is your number one excitement, something that what you can't wait to see, how it plays out? What are you most excited about, and what is maybe one of your potential fears? Because every MMO launch is a little fearful, right? And I'll give
Yeah, of
you
course.
mine. My excitement is that was this topic that this might be for a lot of you listening. If you're just looking to play Lost Ark, you could probably no life the shit out of this game for 4 months and not run out of stuff to do, right? I mean, no life the shit out of it, right? There's going to be so much for you to do in terms of progression, like lateral progression or horizontal progression, alts, adventure book. Like there's so much that you'll be able to, you'll be shocked at how much is in the game. And the crazy part is that's just the launch, right? There's going to be a lot more raids and things to do after that, right? That we're still going to have to be going through probably at a pretty quick pace, right? So, and it's not a race either. It's just you can come in at any point like I did. It's just there's going to be so much that you can do. And that's something to me that you don't get out of an MMO. That's generally MMOs get pooped on at launch because there's not enough content or they're really buggy, right? Content's bad or not enough, and it's really or it's really buggy, right? And this is going to be an MMO launch where you won't be able to say there's no content in Lost Ark. You won't be able to say that. There's too much almost. And that's my fear, is that maybe this is going to be a bit overwhelming for people at the start. But for me, I know the game isn't for everybody. I think it's more of an MMO enthusiast type of game where there are casual players that do more of the collection content. They make a bunch of alts. They do story content. They do Makoko collecting. They do life skilling, which you should be doing all of these things, or some of them, but they're more focused on doing those activities and they don't care about doing all the latest raids right away. But I guess that'd be my fear. A lot to take in for a new player. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most, and also, I guess, my potential fear.
Hmm. So for me, this game is a long time coming. People have been looking at this game for years now. It's coming on 7, 8 years, where people first saw the game for the first time and thought, hey, maybe if I'm lucky, I can play it next year. The next year comes, oh, well, it didn't come out last year. Maybe this year's the year. And then now we're finally coming into 2 weeks at the time of this recording, a little less than 2 weeks, and people will finally be able to play the game. Really excited to see how people react to it. I've gone through the game, so I'm a little bit more numb to it, but I still enjoy it every single day that I play it, which is a rarity, honestly. But I want to see the PvP scene grow. I want to see how people take that, cast tournaments, how they stack up, and how that scene will develop. I want to see how hardcore PvE players from other games come into Lost Ark, which has a completely different control scheme and a completely different way of going about looking at raids, where it's very mechanic heavy, where things like DPS and DPS meters aren't really as much of a concern unless you're going into the highest tier of raids where DPS checks might be a thing. All these people that might have a preconceived notion about what they expect Lost Ark to be, I want to see if the game can actually surpass those expectations that they have. And my biggest fear is actually the same fear that you have, because I mean, Lost Ark is kind of caught in this weird catch-22 situation where it's trying to catch up the Western region, and it's also trying to pace content at a very reasonable rate. We had this problem a few months ago on the Korean server
With
where
hard
Smilegate
yeah.
had to issue a formal apology in the form of a letter for introducing raid content too fast. We were getting new high-end raids that were amazing, but we were getting them every 2 months, and it was creating this rat race vertical progression where people constantly felt like, I need to keep going. I need to quickly get to the next thing because the cap is going to raise higher and higher. I can't waste time here. And they had to make a promise that in 2022, which we saw at level on, instead of focusing on vertical progression, they would focus on horizontal progression. Unfortunately, though, while they have been holding up to that promise, NA and EU, it starts off with a ton of content, and I am concerned. I'd be lying to myself
Me too.
if I said I wasn't. That people are going to get into that mentality, especially if they're pressured by others, whether it's their friends, Joe from Russia, or their mom telling them, "Billy, you can't be fighting her and all. Bolton comes out next week. What are you doing? You're grounded." Um, I don't want people to feel pressured. I want them to be able to actually enjoy the game the way it's meant to be enjoyed. And that's different for everybody, but I think the way that Smilegate intends it is that you can take it at your own pace and enjoy all types of content that might be relevant to you.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, totally agree. Totally agree. I think it's a lot of people that have played the game. But at the end of the day, man, I realized too that it is like every MMO launch. There's always that feeling of you got to go faster, and it's going to be a person to person decision of whether we could try to tell people to not know life it or don't research or go in blind or take your time, and it's a personal decision.
Yeah,
Right? No one's making you
I
do that
don't want
stuff.
to tell. I don't want to be the hypocritical and tell someone to take their time if their drive is to min max the absolute ever living hell out of it.
Yeah.
If you like that, go for it. I'm just saying that you don't have to do it. You don't have to get dragged into this mob mentality that's been forming a bubble.
Right. And if at the end of the day, like you said, that's the predicament we're in. We're trying to they know that the part of the game is what we're trying to get to. So we're trying to get there while also maintaining a decent pace that's like doesn't create as much FOMO, right? So there's downsides to it, but also positives to it, because at the end of the day, that's the content everyone wants to do. That's what you've been seeing videos on, and I'm sure that's what, ultimately I think more content's better than no content. So, okay, that's it. That's a lot.
What are you gonna title this video?
I liked your unprecedented launch. Lost Ark Tier 3, an unprecedented launch featuring Saintone.
That'll get Asmund to click on it.
It's a long video, but there will be timestamps down below. But if you've made it to this point in the video, I should have included it at the beginning of the video because you've already watched the whole video. You skipped around because no one actually watched the full video. But that was it. I think I'll try to get Saint to do another one of these with me, maybe on classes. I'll try to, now that I have him on the video recording him saying that he'll do it. Now he feels pressure to do it. So maybe we can do another one on classes.
When did I say that?
Well, I think we could do one more of them. I think we'll do one more. I think we said we could do an updated class one. Oh yeah, because we're not gonna touch on that in this. Some of the classes have changed since our last one, so maybe we could do something smaller, something shorter.
Just a snippet before this video ends. Some of the opinions from the last videos are no longer valid, whether it be about Summoner or some of the stances that I had on certain classes, because balance passes have happened
Blade.
since then. Yeah, and the state of a lot of classes in PvP have changed a lot as well. it really doesn't feel like it's been
Reaper
that long,
Battlemaster,
but
yeah.
the entire environment on that has changed quite a bit. Mostly in PvP. I think PvE, most of it has stayed the same, but PvP, there definitely have been a lot of changes in opinion since then.
Yeah.
Especially if NNEU starts with all the new stuff with PvP.
We can do something shorter, something smaller, like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, or something like that, going over some of the classes quickly. But anyway, that's going to be it for this one. Hopefully this gave you some insight into not stressing so much with all of this news and all of this content. Hopefully you can go into it with the approach that there's just a lot to do, but you can take your time doing all of it, because at the end of the day, man, I came into the game late and it didn't matter. Okay? So don't stress about this stuff. Don't get FOMO'd in, and just enjoy the fact that there is not going to be a lack of content. You can find Saint. His information will be all over the screen. His Twitch, his YouTube. Go check him out. He's been super helpful for me. I'm trying to plug him more, so all of that stuff will be there. Thank you for coming on, Saint. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for letting me leech off your audience.
No problem. I got to leech off you for content. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Later, guys.